Good afternoon, everyone. This is Alex. I am back again with another video. Hey, it looks like we got Bobby, aka Catfish. He is on here with us at the moment. So, I'm going to revisit this situation with the car. So this is not the particular car, but this is the same model here. So we are talking about Randy Leach, missing from Linwood, Kansas since April 16th of 1988. He went missing after he went to a graduation party and he was driving his mother's car. So this car has been brought up numerous times with the case. And if you guys, our viewers follow us quite a bit, you will know that this car comes up quite often. The car has never been found. So let's first start out with what the car is. So the car is a 1985 Dodge 600 four-door sedan. In 1985, Dodge or Chrysler offered three different engines in this car. One of those engines was a four-cylinder turbo, and then there was I believe all three of them were four cylinders. There was a regular four-cylinder, there was a four-cylinder turbo, and then there was a higher horsepower torque four-cylinder. I could be wrong. The third engine could be a V6. I did a little research. I went to rockauto.com and I pulled a 1985 Dodge 600 four-door sedan up, and it listed the engines, and it also listed the fuel tank size. So this was a question that's been brought up quite often in this, quest for finding Randy, the car, everything that happened to Randy, in April of 1988. The car, it did not matter what engine was in the car. It came from the factory with a 14-gallon tank. And I looked up the car to find a replacement fuel tank for it, and it shows 14 gallons. I did a little other research on it, and the car, depending on what engine that came with it, could have been able to obtain anywhere from 25 to 38 miles per gallon. So that's always been one of the questions was how much fuel was in the car, and possibly how far Randy could have drove it, how far out or how far away could Randy have got before he ran out of gas, depending on how much cash he had in his pocket, so on and so forth, depending on what theory, rumor, accusation, anything that deals with Randy Leach. So, hello, everybody. I see we have we're catching a few viewers who are showing up to watch. So, Dennis and I and the girls, we have talked many times about, all the different scenarios of that day, that time of the year, what happened, the river levels, the lake levels, the pond levels, because it was in a drought. We have looked up on NOAA.com or NOAAweather.com, and you can go back and you can pull up records and you can see different areas of, what was going on with the height in the rivers or creeks, because it is recorded. So, there's always been so many theories of, well, did Randy drive off and go into a pond? Did Randy drive off and go into the creek? Did Randy drive off somewhere and go off into the river? So throughout, basically the time that I have spent with Muddy Waters and the time, talking with Dennis, we have done some stuff. I was lucky enough that up the street from where I live, last year, there was a semi truck that was parked next to a barn in the woods. And the week of, or the week before that Randy disappeared, I started driving by, and I would take pictures every Wednesday from the point when the semi truck, and the semi truck was white, that it was visible because there was no leaves. The vegetation had just barely started growing. So I had basically done an experiment to see how long would it take for that semi truck, being as large as it was and the color of it being white, how long would it take for it to disappear from the side of the highway where you wouldn't be able to see it anymore? And I think it took roughly 5 or 6 weeks. I was sharing information with Dennis on this, and I was sharing the experiment information, pictures, and documentation with Jennifer Washington, who is an unbelievable person on the computer, who does document work, anything with cases and putting timelines together, stuff like that. She is awesome. So, she is just unbelievable at her work. So I had shared this experiment with her, documenting the semi truck basically disappearing in the woods. So maybe someone's saying, well, Alex, why did you do this? What was the point of it? Well, the point of it is to see how long, if hypothetically Randy had ran off the road somewhere, and after all these people searched on foot, and all these people were on horses, or people were on 3-wheelers and 4-wheelers, the gentleman, Tom Kaufman, who was in the airplane, the different air searches, everything. What if Randy had just ran off the road and he wasn't seen from the road somewhere? How long would it take before the car would basically totally disappear under the growth of vegetation? So being that the car was a 4-door sedan, it was a gray color. I think in 1985, I have the actual factory Dodge brochure for that car. I bought it off eBay, and I have Dennis has it now for our research purposes. But I think there was a couple different colors of grays or silver. But, it took basically, I think it was roughly 5 weeks for a white semi truck to disappear in the woods. And I could only imagine that a small 4-door sedan car that was a dark color could disappear even faster, depending on how quick the growth was, the vegetation growth was happening, so on and so forth, in April of 1988 going into May. But even though we were in a drought, which would have played a particular issue. So basically, Dennis and I have talked, and we are looking to find one of these cars because we want to recreate every scenario that has ever been documented on paper, whether it's a theory, a rumor, an accusation, it doesn't matter. Whatever we can do with this car, I want to recreate. Everything from, we put so much fuel in the car and we drove the car. How far can we drive on a full tank of fuel? How far can we drive on a half a tank of fuel? Everything to the point of driving the car off a road, through brush, grass, vegetation, to see tire tracks and document it. We've had conversations with catfish before. Is that something that the police department, law enforcement would do? Are they trained to look at the grass when they're looking for a car that's missing and a person? Are they trained to look and say, oh, look, there's tracks here that evidently in the last few days somebody has drove through here? So many of the situations that relate to this car, we want to recreate. We're going to recreate all of them. We're going to recreate it till the day that the car I take it to the crusher and we have it crushed. I mean, I'm going to dig a hole. I'm going to time, and we're going to, we're going to videotape all these experiments. We're going to document, videotape, and we're going to prove to everybody this realistically could have happened. This realistically couldn't have happened. This possibly did. This possibly didn't. So we're going to try to cover every possible scenario that has ever been documented on paper or hearsay with this car. And in the end, yes, the car will be taken to the crusher and destroyed. But I will eventually, before it goes to the crusher, there's going to be quite a few experiments where the car will end up in a pond. Of course, we will drain the fluids out of it. We will pull it with a cable into the pond, completely submerge it. I will dig a hole and I will bury the car. And I'm going to do it in the middle of the night. And I'm going to time it and we're going to video it and see how long it takes me to dig a hole and bury this car. We're going to do all these experiments to try to prove one way or another this could have happened or it couldn't have happened. And by doing this, it will help Muddy Waters start basically looking through it and saying, no, this couldn't have happened. So we got to throw this out of the loop. This is something we don't need to focus on no more. These options here, yes, this could have happened. So we need to keep this in our pile over here. Hypothetically, we're talking piles. I know it's kind of silly to say it, but we're going to look at it and keep it over here in this pile and say, yeah, this could have happened. This is something that we do need to look at. It's all part of the investigative side of looking into this and trying to get answers and trying to bring Randy home, So, it's going to be a lot of hard work. But, my number one concern is I want to find this car before April 16th. I desperately need to find it. So I'm asking for anybody and everybody, to keep a lookout and basically, if you look on your Facebook marketplace in your area or Craigslist or whatever, and you see one of these cars for sale, like I said, I really want to keep it as the 1985 version. I believe, according to the VIN number, it showed that the car did have a 4-cylinder, but it did not say whether it was the 4-cylinder turbo or not. I will probably call a Dodge dealer and give the VIN number to the car and see what they tell me. So anybody that's listening right now, like I said, I am not super savvy on the computer side of doing this type of stuff since I've been involved with Muddy Waters. But if you can see, here is the VIN number to the actual car that belonged to Harold and Alberta Leach. This is the VIN number to the 1985 car, the Dodge 600 that Randy was driving. I have searched that VIN number. I have searched it in a junkyard database. I've looked it up on Carfax, all of them. Nothing leads to anything besides the car ended up being, I guess, an insurance claim. So when we try to recreate this stuff, I truly want to find the exact car down to the same exact options. I don't care if the car is white or blue, but I will paint the car because I want it to be the most realistic situation to prove or disprove anything. And even though the color of the car doesn't matter, we're trying to prove and get answers. So, but I mean, there's so many different scenarios, and if I can pull them off and we can find locations, I already have a location with a pond. And as long as we drain all the fluids out of the car, there's no issue with us pulling the car from one side of the embankment with a cable into the pond to where the car is completely submerged. We will document the tracks through the grass or the hay or the brush. We will document the tracks going from the grass to the mud into the water. We're going to document standing on the edge of the pond and try to document if we can see the car underwater. This is going to be an incredible experiment that, Muddy Waters is wanting to do. So that's why, we're desperately trying to find one of these cars. I did locate one a couple weeks ago in a salvage yard that had been wrecked. It had been hit in the rear, and the bumper and the trunk lid was folded up. I messaged them, but they have not messaged me back. And I asked if the car was still available. Could I purchase it? Was it in... Oh, I just lost my screen. There we go. I basically threw all this questions out why I was wanting to purchase it, and I have not heard back from them. So the only ones that I have found for sale recently have all been 2-doors or 2-door convertibles, or they're a 1982 or a 1986 or 87. I believe they are what is called a K car. They belong to the K car chassis. So I'm going to reach out on Facebook to some of the K car clubs and see if anybody's willing to help us locate one, or if somebody has one. Because, this is what we're really trying to do and pull this experiment off. And, this is something that nobody else has done. And this is something that, we want to do. We want to do it for Alberta. We want to find answers. We want to find answers for Randy, and, keep looking at all these different scenarios, and see, well, with the water being this low, could he have possibly went off in the creek or went into the river at that time? Would the car have been seen if it was partially submerged, flying in an airplane, at low altitudes, which of course we would have to use a drone, unless I am able to get somebody that has a private airplane that would be willing to help us document, when we try to put the car in the pond and submerge it at different angles and different scenarios. So basically, we're still trying to find one, like I've said. And, if everybody can help spread the word, help us try to find one, that would be awesome. You can always reach us on all our social media outlets. The phone number is on the social media outlets. And our email, wsar22@yahoo.com. So, but we're just trying to prove or disprove what could have happened that night, and possibly what could have happened to the car. So, but as usual, please like, share, subscribe, and like we always say, or I always say too, this is somebody's missing loved one. And in Randy's case, like I've always said when I've talked about Randy, Randy will always be 17, just like so many kids that have disappeared and, who were found deceased, whether it was natural causes, foul play, so on and so forth. But, Randy was never able to be a dad. He was, never was able to get married. Harold and Alberta never became grandparents. It's a sad situation all around. So, always, if you can, try to help, share the word, spread the information, because we appreciate it. The families appreciate it. So, But that will end this video for today. So once again, thank you for everybody that's here watching and commenting. So it's always great to see everybody. Even today, I had 2 videos today that I wanted to touch base on with everybody. So um, I will probably be doing a video in the next few days about the GPR unit that we are looking to get one of these days, because we have quite a few cases that um, basically we need a GPR, ground penetrating radar on. Um, I wish we had it now because, one of the things is, looking for this car if it is indeed buried somewhere, because, there is reports that the car supposedly was buried. That's one of the things I want to do is when I dig a hole and bury it and, grade the dirt over the top of it and let it set for a few days. I want to go over that area with a GPR unit and show what it would look like with the car buried versus an area where there is nothing buried. There's so many experiments and so many things to prove or disprove, by doing this experiment. So, but anyways, I won't take up everybody else's time. I know everybody's busy. So once again, thank you for joining in today, and we will catch you all later. Y'all have a blessed evening. Thank you.